not too long ago with, the Rivers State's government and the palliative money. I want us to do the same, set an agenda. It's talk for development. That's what we claim every time we come here. So let's talk for development. What are the things that the ministers can put on ground to ensure, that they can help turn the tide of our economy? Do you think it's good enough time for you? Do you think it's enough time for you and I, just to sacrifice a little bit? And do you think it's enough time for the government to be able to achieve? That's the first question I'm going to throw at you before my guest and I, start our conversation for today. All right. 0817-923-0002 and 0817-923-0003. WhatsApp number 0809-0306-416. I want to take two calls at least before I start the conversation. So do you think, what do you make of it? Looking at security, what are some of the things that we can do? Looking at ending poverty, what are the things that we can do? Looking at, the other key priority areas, what are some of the things that we can do? I've got calls, so I'm going to quickly listen. I've got Odima And Odima is calling me from Iwofe. So let's listen to Odima quickly, and then we get to conversations. Hello, Odima. Welcome.
Hello, good evening.
Yeah, good evening to you.
For me, I listen to Wale Edu. I listen to the Minister for Health. I listen to all of them.
Okay.
Like you rightly said, and even Tinubu himself said it, that he was going to start from where Buhari stopped. I'm not seeing any sign to show that they were going to do anything differently. Canada, you see, as of today, Tinubu is talking about cutting down the cost of governance. How many ministers? He's projecting 48 ministers. He's still the 9 presidential jet is still packed.
All right.
So as long as I'm concerned, Canada, I'm not expecting anything different. It's going to be the same stories. The same stories. Because APC, as long as I'm concerned, they have seen us Nigerians as a conquered people. They have conquered us.
All right, thank you, Odima.
Anything they say, we collect.
Odima, thank you very much. I've got to go now. I've got to go. Chidoke from Port Harcourt, welcome. What's on your mind, please?
Hi, Canada. Good afternoon.
Yeah, quickly. Yeah, good evening.
Okay, so it's just a very quick one.
Yeah, I'm listening.
I guess it's just a couple of days that they actually told us that unemployment rate is 4.1%.
Yes, they did so.
Then I guess the question is now, why are we now seeking to employ 50 million people? And then why should it take them 3 years to achieve that?
They are talking about formal employment, I guess. There is the informal, the way the calculation goes, the informal, the formal, all of that stuff.
But I agree. I mean, I think it's going to be a daunting task for them. They really need to sit down. I've said this before. They need to sit down before they make pronouncements. They sit down, analyze this thing properly.
All right, then.
I think it's going to be difficult to achieve this within a 3-year period, if you ask me.
All right, thank you very much, then. Thank you very much, CJK. 21 minutes to the 21 minutes gone past the hour, I should say. My guest is in the studio. It's time for us to start our conversation. Sorry, welcome. You can use the headset so you can hear me properly, and you can hear our listeners as well. So I have got in the studio, like I advertised not too long ago, Mr. Godgift Nwankwo, who is an economist and a researcher. He researches in economic issues, I believe. Welcome on the show.
Thank you very much.
You pay a fine for coming late.
Sorry, I'll pay.
You pay. Okay, I like his spirit. But let's get straight into the conversation. You've seen the news that have been flying around, following the Federal Executive Council meeting yesterday. The first conversation I want us to have is the coordinating minister for the economy did say that they met the economy in a bad state. Do you think the previous government really put the economy in the current state, or possibly hasty economic policies by the current administration?
Well, every administration that comes in Nigeria has a way of blaming the past administration.
Okay.
For their economic woes or whatever.
Yeah.
They meet on ground. We are all in Nigeria. We know that the handover of power from the Buhari's administration to Tinubu's administration is an APC thing.
Okay.
So I wouldn't want to know I would want to like to know rather where the economy messed up from. Is it from them to them, or the handlers of the other administration, they didn't do well? Well, back to the basis, the economy is in a bad shape actually.
Okay.
How they inherited it, I do not know.
Okay, but currently it's in a bad shape.
It's in a very bad shape.
How bad is it from an economic perspective?
It's very bad. From all indicators, the economy is bad.
What are the indicators you're looking at? Quickly.
The poverty rate.
Okay.
People are very poor. People beg for food. In the midst of plenty, people beg for food.
All right.
You're telling me that fuel is how much here? 590, 591. In Eche, where I come from, my village, they buy for 800. They buy for 750.
Okay.
And it has a ripple down effect. My mother is a cassava producer. she produces gari. To convert this cassava to gari, she has to grind it. Most of them cannot own these grinding machines. And these grinding machines are powered by petrol. And you know the cost of petrol.
So the economy is bad.
All
right. I'll go for a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll look at some other angles to the conversation. Do stay tuned. Remember, we talk about the economy a lot these days because that is our current biggest challenge. So wait, I would like to get your ideas and opinions after we're done talking with our guests. First, the commercial break. Stay tuned. I've got my guest in the studio, and is Mr. Nwankwo, Mr. Godgift Nwankwo. Is an economist, and we've been talking about the economic resolutions made by the Federal Executive Council yesterday, and they have resolved to revive the economy. They said they met the economy in a bad state, and what the president has asked the ministers to do, for the five of them, is to work together, churn out ideas on how to make the Nigerian economy work, how to change the economic tides and woes. And of course, the question in the minds of as many Nigerians is, how are you going to be doing that? But they say they've got 8 key priority areas, or 8 key areas. We mentioned them: ending poverty, inclusivity, They talked about security. They talked about food security. They talked about several things. These areas being a success because there's also a timeline. They say in the next 3 years, they want to be able to have achieved all of these things. But first, I'll go for the news headlines and then I will come back and me and my guests will have a conversation and you get a chance to join. 50 million people too will be employed, so says the government. So I want to get your thoughts eventually when I open the phone line. Stay tuned.
Good evening.
All right. So, you heard me while I was trying to explain, what went down yesterday at the Executive Council meeting, the Federal Executive Council meeting. They have 8 key priority or 8 key areas that they're looking at: food security, ending poverty, economic growth, job creation, access to capital. They're also talking about youths and women, improving security, rule of law, and fighting corruption. Now, I'm gonna start with ending poverty. We saw this same policy or economic principle during the Buhari's administration, but it looked like more people ended up in poverty according to statistics. 133 million people. Do you think we can, from an economist perspective, not political now, not about the government, as a people, as Nigeria, do you think we can? And if yes, what can we do? What economic principles can we do to be able to achieve that?
You cannot excuse the government from it.
Of course, I understand.
Okay. So, achieving economic growth is very possible for Nigeria as a country. We have all it takes to do that.
Okay.
These policies you've seen here, they are very fine policies. On paper, Nigerians are very, very good policy makers. The challenge we have here is implementation. If we can implement these policies, of course we can. No economy can actually reduce poverty to 0%.
Okay.
It's not possible. So we're looking for how to reduce it to the barest minimum. And one way of doing this is to create employment. Is to create jobs. Because when people are gainfully employed, okay, they can fend for themselves, they can provide their needs, and they will be out of poverty. Okay? Crime rates will also decline because they have the wherewithal to make do. And when I say the government cannot be left out of it, I'm not actually saying that the government can provide jobs. Frankly speaking, the government cannot.
Okay. So the 50 million jobs they're talking about, you don't think?
I am really waiting to see how they're going to do it. What I think the government should do, or what I expect them to do, is to provide this enabling environment. Make power supply available.
Mm-hmm.
Like they mentioned, security.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you an example. A tomato paste manufacturing company, I won't mention the name here, invested about 20 billion naira of its capital, working capital, into tomato paste and tomato farming and paste production in Kebbi State. Okay, all their KPIs were working, they were meeting their key performance indicators, until some about 500 bandits came looking for the expatriates there to kidnap. Killed about 4 policemen on guard, and at the end of the day, this expatriate left for Spain. And that for 20 billion naira investment
went down
the drain. That investment was to provide 1,000 jobs for Nigerians in that area. So you see, if security was on ground and that company goes ahead with their investment plans, poverty will be reduced in that area.
So you're saying these eight key areas are somehow interconnected.
They're interconnected. Key of them is actually insecurity.
Okay, so now that you've mentioned security,
Yeah.
we saw a report where it was written that the defense minister was talking, and he said the reason why there is insecurity in the northern part, especially the northwest, is because of their mineral resources, their extractive resources. How do you think we can get, and it's still part of the economy, right? Because the extractive resources, if we can get it right, will help our FX, which is currently in a bad situation. How do you think we can solve the issue of security in Nigeria? I mean, it's almost everywhere. The south, the northwest, the southeast, the southwest, almost, not central, almost everywhere. All geopolitical zones. How do we solve security from an economic perspective now?
From an economic perspective, if you want to solve insecurity, from an economic perspective, you're supposed to provide jobs.
Again,
let me just educate you a little bit. In economics, there are a lot of things people don't know what happen.
Okay,
there are policies we have that help, rejig the economy or stabilize the economy. We have fiscal policies, we have monetary policies. Some are tight, some are loose, depending on the position of the economy per time. So if we have an economy that is ebbing, what do? You try to stimulate it, make the policies now loose, expansionary policies, as they call it, increase government expenditure, reduce taxation, increase money supply, reduce interest rates, so that investment would thrive, and then it will flow like that. But in doing so, you get more people employed because the demand for labor will increase, wages will go up, and as people get paid, what happens? The general prices of goods and services will go up. So you see, you're solving one problem of unemployment, you're creating
another problem of inflation.
Yeah. Right? So at the same time, you want to stop inflation, you reduce government spending, increase taxation, reduce money supply, increase interest rates. What happens? You cut that. And you cut that, you're cutting down aggregate demand. At the end of the day, what happens again? But then, the government is a continuum, it's a cyclical thing. It doesn't stay stationary. So there are these anti-cyclical kits that the government uses. For example, taxation, to keep the economy somewhere near perfect. You understand? So we cannot just play with insecurity and say, okay, no, provide jobs. From economic point of view, provide jobs. But politically, most of the insecurity situations are politically motivated. So the politicians created these problems. They know how to solve it. They should be sincere.
Okay.
One thing we expect from our leaders at this point is sincerity. Sincerity of purpose. You say something, you mean it. We are used to hailing politicians when they say something and do something else. And we say, no, don't worry, it's politics. What he said is politics. No. They should be held accountable for what they say. So they know all these bandits. I think the Minister of State for Defense was a former governor of Zamfara. Good. You know the story of how he said they know how to handle bandits. So that means now that he's a minister, we expect that they should know how to keep these bandits at bay so that the farmers can go back to farm.
All right.
Yeah.
Talking about monetary and fiscal policies, the government is saying this is not the best time to borrow, that they cannot borrow anymore, but they have to increase revenue generation, the micro economy, all of that. Now that you mentioned, because I'm not the economist, you are, and you seem to be the one now directing our conversation. Now that you've mentioned the micro economy, how do you think that will work? Still boils down to the 8 key areas. They don't want to borrow, but they want to generate revenue. How will that happen, given our current economic state, going by the indicators you mentioned earlier?
Okay, in all honesty, the government started in a hurry. They started in a hurry, if you ask me, economically speaking. For instance, on inception, first day of inauguration, on the day of inauguration rather, the president said subsidy is gone. So apparently they removed subsidy before thinking of palliatives. And then after removing subsidy, we started thinking about how do we sustain the post-subsidy era.
Yeah,
you understand? Now, right now, if you see the policy thrust or directive of the government, it seems to be tending towards a tight fiscal policy. But like I told you here, I said tight fiscal policy entails reducing government spending and increasing taxation. So you see, there is increased taxation. They're increasing taxation one way or the other. You can feel it. All right, the VAT has gone up. Fees in federal institutions have gone up. You hear those things are ways of tightening.
Has VAT gone up?
VAT is about 7.5%. It went up in the last administration. Yeah. So at the end of the day, you find out that you're taxing people. It's good. In fact, tax is the only economically recognized source of government revenue.
Okay.
These resources, you see, petroleum and others are just blessings to the economy. After all, not every country has natural resources.
Yes.
Okay. So you tax the people, but you cannot tax somebody you have not provided with the enabling environment to do business with, which to generate an income from which this tax can be paid. I don't know whether you get it.
I understand you now.
Good. So, secondly, I said you have to reduce government expenditure. With the over-bloated Federal Executive Council, I don't see how that is reducing government expenditure. We have about 40-something ministers.
45 ministers.
Okay. These ministers, I don't know, you are good with figures too, about how many billion was given to them for their vehicles?
They did not have vehicles given to them, according to what they say. They inherited vehicles from their offices, so that's what they say.
Okay.
But I get where you're coming from.
Okay. I think what I had properly was their houses.
Okay, they're all those monies that
were given have been mapped out.
Yeah.
For their housing, they're going to have SAs and PAs and all those things that go with offices of government and all that. And so at the end of the day, you are still increasing the cost of governance. So it looks like you're doing a tight and loose.
So are you saying the government is not sure about what economic direction it wants?
They are not really showing us. The economy, the policy they are driving out is not clear. If you say a government that wants to be tight, you would see it in their actions and policy directions. Policy directions. You understand? You don't just get to employ 45 minutes. For example, the blue economy minister. The functions of NIMASA, the functions of customs, and all those persons that do with inland waterways and all that have been duplicated again by the blue economy minister. So he just created one ministry out of some existing MDAs that the agencies that could be, coordinated. Since you have coordinating ministers, about how many? About 2 or 3?
Thereabout.
Okay, fine. So let's leave that side. Okay? We still run this bicameral legislature, We have the Senate, we have the House of Representatives. If you put all of them together, you could tell how much we are spending on them. In fact, the palliative, you remember how much was earmarked for them?
Was it really a palliative? It was reported as a palliative, but I get it. It's supposed to be some supplementary budget of some sort. But
okay.
I get you.
Okay. So does that look like a government that wants to cut down cost of governance? No. So you're just taxing the poor. I come to talk about the solid mineral side you spoke about. Uche Oga, the former minister for solid minerals, he said about $9 billion worth of gold leaves the shores of Nigeria, unaccounted for, yearly, annually.
Okay. Now, you've listed problems. Let's talk solutions and go to the phone lines. Now, all of these things you've listed, solid minerals, cost of governance, security. How do we, yet again, it goes back to the very question I asked you, how do we solve these issues?
Sincerity of purpose. The government is sincere, everything is workable. Nigerians are hardworking. The NBS statistics of 4.1%, going by the current definition of unemployment, fine by you. Nigerians can work for themselves.
Really?
Yes.
They are
resilient. Go to every corner, every junction. You see a woman try to roast corn, try to sell some fruits, try to do something to make a living out. All right? So they try to fend for themselves. Okay? Until you see one tout come out and say, government sent me, you don't stay here, madam. Oh, yeah, pack your load and destroy it. You see one task force come and pack their goods and make away with it. So you threw that family into mourning that day because these people believe they live on their daily income. So Nigerians make their livings themselves. Just provide them the enabling environment.
So sincerity of purpose.
Sincerity of purpose. These funds they say want to make available for SMEs. Please let it not be politically, done. Share this money, get the SMEs, let them get registered. Have a means of, identifying their profitability and give them performance indicators. Look, if you don't do this at this time, this fund will be, taken off you and all that. Monitor them up. Microfinance banks are there to follow them up down to the grassroots. You would see these people make a living for themselves and, free the government from the burden of unemployment. At the same time, poverty will reduce. Insecurity will reduce. At least the ones that are not politically motivated.
All right.
There are insecurity that is not politically motivated.
So what about corruption? How do you think, you've just talked about sincerity of purpose, and corruption is one of the things that is part of the 8 key economic areas. We've been fighting corruption for God knows how long. Sincerity of purpose, do you see that, given the body language and the actions of this current government, do you see that happening? You've said the policy direction is confusing, the economic policy direction is confusing, but does it show the sincerity of purpose in terms of the fight against corruption?
Let me start from the Buhari administration a little bit.
Yeah, please do.
When Buhari came to power, on 3 prongs. He said corruption, insecurity, and economy.
Yeah.
3 of them. In fact, if you ask me why most Nigerians rooted for Buhari, then it was for corruption. They said this guy has an anti-corruption stance, judging from his military days as head of state. But at the end of the day, corruption multiplied. Now, you see, corruption has taken a permanent place in our economic political lexicon in Nigeria. It is so endemic. It is not only at the top. Down is the corruption. In fact, every Nigerian wants to. In fact, somebody said one day, the people who are waiting to loot are more than those who have looted. So you see, there should be this reorientation in our minds. Okay. You understand? And I think that can even start from the top too. Because if the top is bad, it trickles down.
Okay.
You understand? If you start from the top, you show example, people will now, follow up. I stay around Lakaya Choba area. You see FCC come these days to the lodge of students. Maybe these are internet fraudsters or alleged internet fraudsters. Get them arrested. Fine. You catch the small thieves. You leave the big thieves. You understand?
All right.
So it is an endemic thing. But if we have our priorities right, the economy is bad. We want it to work. Everybody wants the economy to work. Then start from the top. Show some example. Just show some example.
And Nigeria.
Some former governors were arrested. We are incarcerated for corruption charges. And before that administration ended, they were freed. Granted amnesty.
All right. Let's take some calls now. You've been listening to the conversation. There's a commercial break in 5 minutes, so we're going to take one or two. Remember, we will get the chance to push this conversation further during the open season, which is after the major news at 6. So I'm going to quickly take one or two more calls, and then we'll wrap the conversation for now so we can go for the news. So 0817-923-0002, 0817-923-0003. WhatsApp number 0809-0306-416. The question I'm asking is, given the delegation of power by the president to the ministers, how do you think we can turn, the economic tides? Do you see feasibility in the 8 key areas or 8 priority areas as earmarked by the Federal Executive Council? And how do you think this will turn out? We've got 3 years of you and I sacrificing, of you and I, according to my guess, going through some tight economic policies. How do you think we can be able to achieve it? I'd like to hear from you. I've got a call. Like I said, I'm going to take 2. Okay, let's start with this one first. Hello, what's your name?
Hello, Canada.
Yeah, welcome. What's your name?
Yeah, I'm the speaker in the studio.
All right, welcome.
Hello, my name is Dr. Nwankwo.
Let's hear you then, please, quickly.
My brother, speaker.
Thank you, my brother.
Okay. I want to appreciate you, the way you are trying your analysis on this issue of economy in this country. And so you started by making a reference to your mom, how you're going about the economy, situation of the economy now. You see, the truth is that the economy is really biting. There is no gainsaying about it. You see, just like you said, the only solution, at least to eliminate the situation of the harsh economy, is to create jobs. Not even this palliative that government is saying they are bringing 2 billion and so in this country. You see, it will only end up in going to the pockets of the rich and the politicians too.
All right.
You see,
summarize.
I
please.
and you, even your mother in the village, will not even have access to this. Even the dross of rice they say they are bringing, just believe me that. So, I think creating employment, timid youth that are unemployed, we have to solve the problem that we are really just saying. So
right,
I want to appreciate you.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very
Thank
much. All right, your final words. We're out of time. What is your final? If you had a chance to talk to the ministers or the Federal Executive Council, what would be your advice?
I would want them to feel the pulse of Nigerians.
Okay.
They should come down from their high horses and feel the pulse of Nigerians so that they can know what to do when they go back to Abuja. This should not be business as usual.
Okay, not economics from the top, but economics from the bottom.
From the bottom. And let me tell you one funny thing. They have fine economists at their disposal. But like we do in economics, we only advise. We'll give you the costs and the benefit
But
analysis.
but with their fine economies, it looks like the economic policies Nigeria keeps define all of them.
Implementation.
So, for instance, I don't have time, but for instance, $3 billion NNPC alone was put into stabilizing the currency, but we've not seen any stability.
Why did you even float the naira in the first place when you're not a producing economy?
Oh my goodness.
You can float your currency. When you float your currency, what you're actually supposed to do is that it makes it weaker. All right, especially when you're not producing. The other currency becomes, when your currency is in low demand, the value drops. So what does that do? It makes the local populace who have this currency not to go for foreign goods. So they fall back to their locally produced goods. Do you produce any?
All right. I've got to say goodbye to Mr. Nwankwo at this point. Commercial break coming up, but you and I will continue the conversation on the other side of the news. Stay tuned.